4K, a big 1/1.3-inch sensor, an extremely fast processor, HDR, pure video for low light, a lens co-engineered by Leica, a ton of AI features, and a flip screen. This is the Insta360 Ace Pro. This doesn't look good for GoPro, but these are all just specs. In this video, we will find out how well the first classic non-modular action camera from Insta360 compares to the GoPro Hero 12. There are 15 categories and 1 point for the winner of each category. This video is not sponsored, and you can also find a comparison between the Ace Pro and the Action 4 on my channel. Of course, we start with the image quality. There are a few things you should know about the Ace Pro's image quality. At 1/1.3 inch, the Ace Pro's 48 megapixel sensor is significantly larger than the GoPro's 1/1.9 inch sensor. Sensor size is not everything when it comes to image quality, but it is definitely important, especially in low light conditions or when it comes to dynamic range. The camera was also developed in collaboration with Leica. This should also stand for high image quality. And last but not least, the Ace Pro has an ultra-fast modern 5nm chip. This is a special feature and unique for an action camera. The Hero 12 still has a 12nm chip. For comparison, the iPhone 8 already had a 10nm chip. The fast chip should not only enable better image quality, but also the many AI features that the Ace Pro comes with. And there are a few more things you should know about the image quality of the Ace Pro. The default settings, the Ace Pro shoots in HDR, at least at frame rates of up to 30 frames per second. This is possible because HDR on the Ace Pro hardly leads to disadvantages in stabilization and is also well suited for action shots. However, you can also deactivate the feature if you wish. HDR is therefore activated in most of the shots you can see in this video. By the way, these shots were all taken in 4K. The Ace Pro can shoot in 8K, but only in 24 frames per second and without HDR. 8K is just one of the many special features of the Ace Pro, and more importantly for me, the camera is really fun to shoot with. This is mainly due to two things: the flip screen, which is large and bright and great for filming yourself, and the ease of use. Okay, that's some important information and the first impression. Let's move on to our categories and take a closer look at the recordings. The first 5 to 6 categories all deal with image quality in detail. The colors, contrast and exposure make up the look of a shot. And purely in terms of the colors, the shots from the two cameras look very similar. That's good, because GoPro has always been known for its beautiful colors. However, the Ace Pro's image has slightly more saturation in the default setting. There are clear differences in the exposure and contrast. GoPro tends to expose the image brighter. Interestingly, however, this is not always the case. The bright exposure of the GoPro often leads to highlights burning out and details being lost. GoPro also brightens the shadows considerably. For this reason alone, the Ace Pro's footage looks richer in contrast overall. Both cameras emphasize details. For example, you can see a similar amount of texture in the clouds. Despite HDR, the Ace Pro does not have an unrealistic HDR look. The HDR mode only has a slightly negative effect when the face is very brightly exposed. Then the face looks a little too reddish for my taste. The Ace Pro's image also looks better when the image is backlit, even if the face looks a little blurred here. Especially in artificial lighting conditions, the colors look better than those of the GoPro, as in this example. The skin tones in particular are more accurate here. In addition to the standard settings, both cameras come with a color profile with more saturation and also a flat color profile. However, only the GoPro also has a log profile and 10-bit color, which is important if you want to heavily edit your recordings. The GoPro's log profile isn't great, but you do have the option. Nevertheless, this point goes to the Ace Pro for me. The standard field of view of the Ace Pro is roughly the same of that of the GoPro. This also applies to the comparison between Action View and Super View, the slightly wider field of view. There is only a really decisive difference when comparing D-Warp against Linear, which is the distortion-free field of view. And here, the field of view of the Ace Pro is significantly wider, which is of course an advantage. The Hero 12 also has Hyperview, which offers a particularly wide field of view vertically, but also has very strong distortions. The Hero 12 also has a rather atypical, almost square 8:7 sensor. The advantage of this format is that when shooting in 8:7, you can crop the same shot relatively well horizontally and vertically. In contrast, the Ace Pro has a classic 4:3 sensor. However, it comes with two important special features in terms of field of view: the Freeframe video mode and clarity zoom. And we should take a closer look at these. You use the Freeframe video mode if you want to have complete freedom in post. Basically, the recordings from the sensor are captured without cropping and without stabilization. Framing and stabilization are then done in the app. This gives you much more freedom, and the stabilization should also be slightly better. And clarity zoom is an absolute novelty on an action camera. It zooms in twice. It It is of course a digital zoom, but the image is not simply cropped. The high-resolution sensor and digital processing enable an almost lossless zoom. Here you can see that Clarity Zoom delivers significantly more detailed images than the digital zoom and the crop on the GoPro. However, the GoPro also has a strength, and that is the new Max Lens mod. The Max Lens mod simply has a cool and extremely wide field of view, and if you own the GoPro, you should get it. However, it is an accessory that has to be purchased separately and is also relatively expensive. Overall, therefore, this category also goes to the Ace Pro, and the dynamic range is one of the Ace Pro's particular strengths. As already mentioned, the Ace Pro shoots in HDR at up to 30 frames per second in the default settings, and its recordings have a greater dynamic range for this reason alone. But even if we activate the HDR mode on the GoPro cannot keep up with the Ace Pro. You can see this in this extreme example in the tunnel. The Ace Pro's HDR mode simply delivers the better results. Don't be fooled by the fact that the shadows are slightly brighter on the GoPro. This is part of the GoPro's look and doesn't necessarily lead to more detail in the shadows. The Ace Pro also has a slightly better dynamic range when HDR is switched off on both cameras. Therefore, this category also clearly goes to the Ace Pro. As already mentioned, the Ace Pro can shoot in 8K. Insta360 is the first major manufacturer of action cameras to take this step. However, the 8K resolution comes with limitations. It is only available in 24 frames per second and does not support HDR. I was also unable to test the 8K mode because it will only be activated with the final firmware. And I'm really excited to see how the 8K image looks. It is interesting to note that the Ace Pro's recording in normal 4K mode has at least as much detail as the GoPro's recording, even though the GoPro shoots in 5.3K. In this comparison at 400%, I would even give the Ace Pro the edge. If we then add the clarity zoom and the resolution of 8K, this category also goes to the Ace Pro. Both cameras can take slow motion shots in 4K at 120 frames per second, and the recordings look really good. In 4K, the Ace Pro takes the slightly better shots overall. The Hero 12 visibly loses image quality when the resolution is reduced from 5.3K to 4K. For 240 frames per second, you have to reduce the resolution on the Ace Pro to 1080. The Hero 12 is able to take slow motion shots at 240 frames per second in 2.7K. Nevertheless, the Hero 12's recordings don't really look any better in 2.7K. Both shots look equally bad. That's a draw, so 1 point for each camera. Shooting in low light is one of the great strengths of the Ace Pro. The Ace Pro has its own mode for shooting in low light, the pure video mode. In this mode, the resulting image noise is removed by the camera in the best possible way. In addition, the significantly larger sensor naturally leads to clear advantages in low light. The Hero 12 tries to keep up by slowing down the shutter speed, which leads to visibly poorer stabilization results. Especially when it gets very dark, the strengths of the Ace Pro's pure video mode become apparent. It should be clear to you that the Ace Pro is of course not a camera that was made specifically for low light, but the pure video mode leads to really good results. A clear point for the Ace Pro. Today's action cameras are able to stabilize sports and action shots very well. This also applies to the Ace Pro. There are hardly any differences in typical use. You can only notice differences if you compare the cameras directly and put them through an intensive test. And in the standard stabilization settings, it is hardly possible to determine a winner between the Ace Pro and the Hero 12. However, if we compare the setting high on the Ace Pro with Auto Boost on the Hero 12, we can see that Auto Boost stabilizes the shot better. Insta360 says that the Freeframe video mode may provide a better stabilization. However, you always have to edit these recordings. The stabilization category therefore goes to the GoPro. The Ace Pro has a very high quality finish and looks very rugged. It has a quick switch button on the side and a side door on both sides. One disadvantage is certainly that the lens cover cannot be removed. In all these years, I have only damaged a lens cover on an action camera once. Insta360 Care would enable a quick and straightforward replacement in such a case, but has to be purchased separately. Both cameras are waterproof up to 10 meters without an additional case. The Ace Pro is slightly larger and also slightly heavier than the Hero 12. I think this is certainly one of the few relevant disadvantages of the Ace Pro, besides the stabilization. From the front, the Ace Pro looks about the same size as the GoPro, but it is significantly thicker. This is mainly due to the flip screen. This point goes to the GoPro. And now let's take a closer look at the Ace Pro's display. Not only is it larger than the back display of the Hero 12, it can also be folded up completely. This is a complete novelty for an action camera of this type. The display looks sturdy and does not look as if it would break off easily. The flip screen is of course a big advantage. because the GoPro's front display is not only very small, it also has a bad format. The framing is difficult to assess. As it is not a touch display, the GoPro cannot be operated with it either. The tilting display also offers the option of operating the camera from above and controlling the framing at very special angles. The Ace Pro's display is also more responsive than the GoPro's and appears slightly brighter in the sun. The tiltable display is one of the Ace Pro's great strengths, a clear point for that. The Ace Pro has a magnetic mount. This allows the camera to be quickly removed from one mount and attached to another. I know that many GoPro users have doubts about the magnetic mount. However, the Ace Pro's mount is absolutely stable. It holds absolutely securely and there is no room for movement that could lead to camera shake. GoPro needs to change something here and revise its own mount. This point also goes to the Ace Pro. I tested both cameras at 4K and 30 frames per second. The Ace Pro was able to shoot for 1 hour and 35 minutes at these settings, while the Hero 12 lasted 7 minutes longer, for a total of 1 hour and 42 minutes. But the Ace Pro's battery charges much faster. The difference in charging time is huge. Overall, I therefore give both cameras 1 point. And the Ace Pro has no problems with overheating. Yes, of course, overheating tests can never correspond to real conditions. Whether you have problems with overheating also depends on your usage. Regardless, the GoPro here in the office lasted for 1 hour and 6 minutes in 4K 60 at 18 degrees Celsius. The Ace Pro ran until the battery was empty. In 4K 120, the GoPro was able to shoot for 35 minutes, the Ace Pro for more than 1 hour. The overheating category also goes to the Ace Pro.
Are there big differences in audio quality? You can also connect a microphone to the Ace Pro via USB-C. On the GoPro, this is only possible in a very cumbersome way via the Media Mod. You can also connect the GoPro to headphones via Bluetooth, but this sounds pretty bad. What do you think? Can you hear a significant difference? What do you think? Can you hear a significant difference?
I had the impression that the GoPro sounds slightly louder and also a little clearer. It also handles wind noise a little better. The difference is not huge, but this point goes to the GoPro. We have already seen many special features of both cameras today. The GoPro has a lock mode and 10-bit color and of course the max lens mode. It also has a few creative recording modes such as start rails or light painting. But the Ace Pro also has a number of special features. It can take high resolution photos with 48 megapixels. It not only supports voice commands, but also gesture control. For example, you can start a recording by moving your hand. And a simple but absolutely interesting feature, the Ace Pro has a pause feature. You can pause the recording and then resume it. Everything is saved to the same file. You can connect the Ace Pro to your Apple Watch or Garmin and save all the data such as GPS or speed. However, both cameras do not record GPS data internally, but for the Ace Pro there is a wristband with a display that can be used as a remote and saves the GPS data. You can also use the display of the remote to control the framing, for example when your Ace Pro is mounted on your helmet. And of course, you can also use the remote to change various settings. This is another point in favor of the Ace Pro. And that brings us to the last but important category, the app. Most people use their action camera in combination with the smartphone app, and the Ace Pro can score here too, because the Insta360 app is clearly superior to the GoPro app. It has a better auto edit feature and a wide range of creative effects. Some of these are gimmicks, others are really cool. The new AI warp feature deserves special mention. Not only can you use predefined presets here, you can also select a subject and then use text input to specify how the subject should change. And the AI highlights assistant should also be mentioned. It recognizes special moments during recording and thus enables faster, automated creation of a video clip. This means that if you later use the auto edit feature or for the creation of memories, the app does not have to fully analyze the footage again, as this is already done directly in the camera. This saves time. According to Insta360, thanks to the fast 5nm chip, the camera is able to recognize subjects in real time and mark them in the clip. This is actually more of a strength of the camera and less of the app. But the app has another special feature. You can transfer several clips from the camera to your phone in the background without having to keep the app open. This means you can use your phone for other things while downloading. This is not possible with the GoPro app, which must remain open in the foreground during the download. The point for the app also goes to the Ace Pro, and so the Ace Pro clearly wins the comparison by 12 to 5. But what does the Ace Pro cost? The Ace Pro costs $450 and is therefore $50 more expensive than the Hero 12. You can find links to both cameras in the video description. You will also receive a free gift if you purchase the Ace Pro via the link. Does the result of this comparison test mean the GoPro is now a bad camera? No, absolutely not. I think the great strengths of the Ace Pro are the many features, the useful flip screen and the good performance in low light. If you don't need that, the GoPro is a good alternative. It has better stabilization and is slightly smaller. But is the Ace Pro also better than the Action 4? If this interests you, take a look at my corresponding video and give me a like as feedback if you found this video interesting. There will be more videos on the Ace Pro and the Hero 12. So stay tuned and see you next time.